Okay. Now, there's a lot of stuff out there on lens compression. I still keep getting a lot of stuff on lens compression. Now, I'm going to make this so incredibly simple, and it'll also be the best video. Even though these are horribly drawn stick figures, right? I'm still going to make this the best video ever on YouTube about lens compression. And then you're going to learn immediately from this what the difference is between a photographer and a slide ruler and calculator button sniffer, okay? Because you're going to understand where they're misunderstanding things. I have two identical cameras here, right? I've got three images here. You're going to learn immediately why only two of these images are valid, but only one image is the one that you want, because everything is about the image, right? Does lens compression exist or doesn't exist? Well, some people quote articles like this. This is a F-Stoppers article. It says lens compression doesn't exist, but if you scroll a little bit further down in the exact same article, it says compression is a real thing. Well, wait a minute. The top of the article says lens compression doesn't exist. Well, down here it says compression is a real thing. So, how about making it really simple? We got Captain Stick Figure here, right? We're taking a shot with two identical cameras. Same distance, let's say 150 yards. We have Captain Stick Figure up here on the hill, and behind him we got the moon, right? That's a blue moon, right? So our feet in these two images are glued to the ground, right? Over here we have a Nikon D810. Over here we got a Nikon D810. Over here we have a 20 millimeter lens on our camera. And over here, let's say we have a 300 millimeter lens. Okay, remember now, our feet are glued to the ground. This is where we're going to learn what the difference is between a button sniffer, okay, and a photographer. Because people don't understand compression. They say, well, lens compression doesn't exist. It's like, well, you're almost half right, but you're entirely wrong because you don't understand how a photographer works. Now, one of these images is completely invalid. Two are usable, but only one of them is what you want. So let's explain that one, okay? Say we want the moon really big behind the shoulder of Captain Stick Figure. We want that blurred out, super awesome look that we get from a 300 millimeter, 400 millimeter, even a 200 millimeter f2. There's a reason why people use that really expensive 200 millimeter f2 Nikkor, right? Well, people say lens compression doesn't exist. Okay, if our feet are glued to the ground right here, both identical cameras. This one's a 20 millimeter, for example. Over here's a 300 millimeter. Now let's render the moon. Remember, our feet are glued to the ground in these two images. Two different cameras, two different lenses. Two identical cameras, D810. Or you could have the same thing be a Nikon D500. In this case, it doesn't matter whether it's crop sensor or not. A crop is a crop is a crop. Okay, 20 millimeter here, 300 here. Here's a little stick figure right here. Here's our moon in the background. So if I crop, this image has been cropped. This image is not cropped. Okay? Okay, so now you know what the difference between these two is? Now, when we took the shot with the 300 millimeter versus the 20 millimeter, the 20 millimeter kind of got like this, right? And the 300 millimeter, well, it kind of got like that. So we have this versus this, right? Do you see that? There's the 20 millimeter field of view, and there's the 300 millimeter field of view. Now, let's learn about which one of these two before we get to this one, okay? Which one of these is going to be valid and which one of them is going to be completely invalid? Well, over here, we didn't crop anything, or maybe we just cropped it a little bit, right? So over here, ding, 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 this is what the photographer wants. Over here, to get this image to look identical to this, and you see the moon is the same size behind Captain Stick Figure right here, right? Same size. The only problem is that this image over on the left, yeah, I had to crop it like this, which means we took that 36 megapixel sensor and turned it into, say, a 4 megapixel sensor. Oh my God, it's over on the right, even though we have the exact same camera. Over here on the left, we have what we call an invalid image because it's a heavy, heavy crop. Not cropped at all, cropped the hell out of it. We went from a 36 megapixel image with no crop versus, say, a 4 or 5 megapixel image to crop Captain Stick Figure. Now you'll see that the moon is the same behind Captain Stick Figure's shoulder, right? 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 This has a nice fuzzy blurred background over on the right. We didn't crop anything. Mess with it in Lightroom. do post-production on it. Over here, all the post-production in the world ain't gonna make this look good because it's a 4 megapixel cutout from the 20 megapixel image. Excuse me, 20 megapixels. Excuse me, the 20 millimeter lens that was used. 20 millimeter lens. I said megapixels. Yeah. You see that? This is completely invalid. But if you're a button sniffer, you're only looking at the, well, this is the same. There is no lens compression. If your feet are glued to the ground and you have two identical cameras and only two different lenses, for example, 20 millimeter versus a 300 millimeter. Yeah? Look, the moon is the same size. Yeah, so there is no lens compression. Yeah, except photographers don't work this way. No, they don't. Now I can take and zoom with my feet and get in close to Captain Stick Figure with the 20 millimeter lens to have an uncropped image of Captain Stick Figure look the same as, oh wait, it won't look the same. Oh, damn. Depth of field is not only different, but instead of the moon, which is what we want, Captain Stick Figure wants a huge moon behind his left shoulder, right? So, you remember as a photographer, you're supposed to get the image that the client wants, right? So, the moon over Captain Stick Figure looks like that. And there's a lot of details back here, like, you know, the junkyard that's off in the distance. Now over here, we can't see the junkyard. Because that's what's behind Captain Stick. Everything is blurred out and fancy and beautiful. And the moon is huge. Now this is over here on the bottom left, also a valid image. Okay, so we have two valid images. This is totally invalid. Captain Stick Figure doesn't want a 4 megapixel grainy crappy image, even though it's got the same compression as with the 300 millimeter. But the problem is you had to crop the hell out of it to make it look that way. Now the image is useless. So both of these are valid, but only one of these, because we got the big old moon behind Captain Stick Figure here, and Captain Stick Figure ain't paying you for reality, because photography is not about reality. You know, Captain Stick Figure can get this image with his iPhone. Captain Stick Figure is paying you the big bucks, Mr. Photographer, to make his face look like this, with the moon all dreamy like a big pizza pie behind his shoulder, and everything back here blurred out and awesome. And this image makes Captain Stick Figure happy, and this one makes him mad because Captain Stick Figure is not paying you $1,000 to take a picture he can get with his iPhone, which means ultimately that this image over here is it's invalid, even though it's a valid shot, because that Captain Stick Figure says I can get that sort of damn image out of my freaking iPhone. You're fired. You suck. I'm going to leave a bad review about you on Google.com on your business, because you just charged me a lot of money for something I can get out of my damn iPhone. Captain Stick Figure don't like that. So, you see, this is what button sniffers are confused about. Lens compression is the same. It is, but it's not. If you stand with your feet glued to the ground, and you have two cameras and two different lenses, a 300 millimeter and a 20 millimeter, for example, yeah, lens compression is the same. If, of course, over here we're not cropping. This is straight out of camera. Over here we had to crop the hell out of the shot. You see? Yeah, this is the best explanation of lens compression on the internet. Even though I use crappy stick figures to illustrate it, right? Because everything is about content and comprehension. People make a lot of really fancy videos on YouTube. Fancy! But they don't relay the information to you. No, they don't. You know, it's about comprehension. Yeah, it's not about fancy stuff. Oh, I use stick figures in this video. That's so unprofessional. Is it? You got the point, didn't you? You did get the point, didn't you? You did. Isn't that all that matters? Now you understand? These two are valid. This is totally invalid. But ultimately, this is also invalid. Because that's the same as an iPhone picture. Yeah? Captain Stick Figure is paying for that picture, but he ain't paying for that. He sure as hell isn't paying for that. He said, what is this blurry, grainy image? Oh my god, it's horrible. Well, I had to crop a 36 megapixel image down to 4 megapixels. But look, the lens compression is the same between these two. Yeah, but this looks like crap, and this looks awesome! Yay! So, I hope you learned something today. You see, if you're intelligent, you can figure out a way to teach somebody anything, even using stick figures. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, you can click the link below, make a small donation. Tell me to jump off a cliff. Send me a big fat pizza. Doesn't matter either way. Whatever makes you happy as long as you learn something. Thank you for watching. Yeah! Bye.